About a week later, I was in my kitchen cutting up some fruit for breakfast, and I heard the doorbell ring. I answered it to see two red-faced delivery men. Between them they carried an immense package, which they'd clearly had to maneuver up the narrow stairs of the building I lived in. They asked if I was Joshua Gillespie, and when I said yes, they said they had a delivery addressed to me, and pushed past into the hall. They didn't seem to be from any delivery company I knew, and they weren't wearing any uniforms. I tried to ask them some questions, but as soon as they'd placed the box on the floor, they turned around and walked out. They were both well over 6 feet tall and very imposing, so there was little I could have done to stop them leaving, even if I'd wanted to. The door slammed behind them, and I was left alone with this package. Then came a knock at the door. The sound was light and unobtrusive, but it rang out like thunder in the quiet flat. I knew what I'd see as soon as I opened the door, and I was right. John and the two delivery men stood there. I wasn't surprised to see them, as I say, but they actually seemed quite surprised to see me. I didn't follow them. I didn't want to see what they did with the coffin. I didn't want to see if they opened it. And when the screaming started, I didn't want to see who was screaming, or why. I only left the kitchen when the two delivery men carried the coffin past the door. I followed them down the stairs and watched in the pouring rain as they locked it into a small van marked Breekon and Hope Deliveries. Then they drove away. There was no sign of John. That said, I did mention it to Tim yesterday, and apparently he did some digging of his own. Breekon and Hope did in fact exist, and were a courier service that operated until 2009, when they went into liquidation. They were based in Nottingham, however, significantly north of Bournemouth, and if they kept records of their deliveries, they are no longer available. There's one other detail Tim uncovered that sticks out to me. It's a name I recognize, though I have no idea what it could mean. The oratory was obviously not the actual scene of Father Burroughs' crimes, but there was one strange thing that happened a few days prior. They received a delivery of a pale yellow stole, which apparently vanished less than a day after they signed for it. This would be unusual, but not necessarily noteworthy, if it wasn't for the fact that one of the deacons recalled the package was handed to them by a company called Breekon and Hope Deliveries. They questioned my neighbors about it. None of them had seen anything except for Mrs. Harlow next door, who said she noticed two people taking out pieces of red sheet metal and brass pipes. She didn't remember any details, just said that they looked legitimate, and she thought I was having some things moved. The police never found them. When discussing this case, Tim said it reminded him of some articles he'd read on travelling circuses in Russia and Poland during the early 20th century. On a whim, I hunted down a few of the volumes he mentioned in the Institute's library, and sure enough, on page 43 of Gregory Petrie's Freaks and Followers, Circuses in the 1940s, I found a reproduction of an old black and white photograph. It shows a small group of carnival workers, a contortionist, a fire-eater, two strong men, a ringmaster, and an organist sitting behind a calliope. The photograph is labeled as being from 1948 and taken in Minsk, Russia. Only the ringmaster and organist are named, Gregor Orsinov and Nikolai Denikin. The name of the troupe was Tsark Drogrova, the Circus of the Other. The name rings a bell, but I can't find any other reference to it.
John, did you call
Excuse us?
Looking for the archivist.
I'm sorry, you two actually meant to...
Won't take up your time.
Just got a delivery.
Look, you really can't actually...
Package for Jonathan Sims.
Says right here.
Oh, well, I don't really know where he is.
We'll just leave it with you.
Be sure he gets it.
Okay, I will, but you really do have to actually...
Much obliged.
Stay safe.
I'll try.
Your recorder's on, by the way.
Might want to change that.
Oh, So it is. Thanks.
No problem.
At all.
Tell me again.
Again?
I want it on tape.
What? Why?
I just want a record. To make sure I have something I can check.
Okay, fine. There were 2 delivery men, they were big, and they spoke with Cockney accents that might have been fake, and they delivered a package for you. I don't remember anything else about what they looked like.
Nothing at all?
They looked normal. Like you'd expect. They looked like 2 huge Cockney delivery men. I don't know what else you want.
What about the table?
I didn't see the table. I guess Rosie must have signed for it. I mean, it's her office on the way to artifact storage, so that makes sense.
She says the same as you. 2 men, doesn't know how they got in, too intimidated to ask, looked exactly like you'd expect. Useless.
As I scrambled back, I felt a large hand on my shoulder and looked up to see 2 huge men in overalls. They lifted me easily, so my feet hung almost 2 feet from the ground. They talked fast, crude Russian, and their words seemed to shift back and forth between them, telling me that behind the tent was off limits and that I should leave the tiger alone, as it wasn't ready to perform yet. At least that's what I thought they'd said at the time. It was only later that it struck me their exact phrase had been that the tiger wasn't finished. They carried me back to my father and placed me down next to him. He thanked them and asked me if I'd seen my brother.
I was just about to make my excuses and go when the bell rang out at the front of the shop and a pair of obnoxious Cockney voices started to call out for Daniel. His face went blank at this, and he asked me to excuse him 1 second, abruptly leaving me in the back room alone. I heard the men say something about unloading a van, and then the bell rang again, taking Daniel with it. I was alone. His 2 Cockney friends were too slow to grab me before I was off down the road. I may not look it, but I can move at a fair pace when I need to. And I did so for almost an hour before I finally felt safe enough to stop. Rawlings denies any memory of specifically Cockney delivery men, but I'm sure I don't need to spell out my suspicions there.
We walked up to the driver's side. I could see dark shapes from inside, but they weren't moving. Up close, I could read the name on the side. Breekon and Hope Deliveries. It was covered in a thick layer of dirt that the rain couldn't quite wash off. From the other side, 2 men climbed out. They were huge. Hard faces like a pair of old stone statues dressed in overalls and flat caps. They asked what was going on, speaking back and forth in Cockney accents so broad and fake-sounding that I thought they were putting them on for a laugh. I was about to lay into them for it when a sound cut me short. From the back of the van there was the sound of moaning. It sounded like, kind of like a moan of pain, but long and drawn out. It went on for almost a full minute and was almost, I don't know, kind of musical. I looked at Tom and the fake Cockney passengers, but their faces were unreadable. I saw that the 2 big guys had walked up next to us, so I was getting ready for trouble, but there's no way I would have guessed what was in there. I looked over at Zach, and he seemed to be thinking the same thing. He looked over at the 2 men in overalls and told them to take it out. I tried to ask Tom or his companions about it. I yelled at them to explain what the hell was going on, but they just stood there, staring at it. So I hit one of them with my baton. It was one of the larger men in overalls. I'm not sure which one. It was like hitting solid wood, and the blow jarred my arm badly, making me drop the only weapon I had. Even then, he just stood there, staring at the casket. I shouted for him, started to run, but I felt a huge hand grip my shoulder. I grabbed it with my good arm, tried to escape it, but the grip was too strong. The texture of the flesh was like a hard rubber. The hand released my shoulder as the 2 men in overalls began to walk over and calmly wrap the chains back around it. I felt a sudden burst of anger and picked up my baton. I lunged at them, but the one closest to me moved quicker than I would have thought possible. His fist slammed into my chest like a cannonball, and I felt a couple of ribs break. I collapsed to the floor, just lay there, as Tom and the 2 men locked the coffin back up, loaded it into the van, and drove off. I never saw Isaac Masters again.
That was an interesting interview. It seems we're not done with sinister coffins just yet, and the contents were surprising, to say the least, but don't give any real clues as to its origin, purpose, or even its relationship with Breekon and Hope. Are they simply couriers? Guardians? Hostages? I do not know whether this picture was taken before or after the crime, or whether it's a stock photo, but I cannot help but notice, parked just at the edge, is an off-white delivery van. The resolution is not high enough to make out the name on the side, but I'm not sure I need to. Breekon and Hope might also be connected to it. I recall they made a delivery to a taxidermy shop in a previous statement, I think, which brings us back to skin. Not to mention more than one witness has described them as uncanny, not quite seeming like real people. Until I am more certain of the identities of the other powers out there, I am going to assume Breekon and Hope are at least working with, if not part of, the stranger. It looked like my father-in-law was moving, though. I remember it was Breekon and Hope doing it. They had a depot a ways down the street, and I recall thinking how odd it was, using a couple of local lads with such a small van, given how much furniture they were having to load up from Greg's house. I asked them about it, about where he was, but they just looked at each other and mumbled something in Polish or Russian. And then they completely ignored me. I was going to press the issue, but I got another wave of that dreadful, rotten smell from the house, and realized I had to leave before I was sick. But Breekon and Hope, speaking Russian and helping transport a victim of whatever dark power rules over disease and rot, and insects, maybe? I was just about convinced that they served the stranger, and their speaking Russian might well support that, if it ties them to the circus, but this is not the first time they've been delivering things that seem to be tied to other beings. Are they a neutral party, carting around whatever horror needs delivering, just a piece of otherworldly infrastructure? Or are they fully part of the stranger, just serving as allies of convenience for other things that need to be moved? More importantly, though, it mentions a depot in Newcastle. Sasha checked on the Nottingham depot when they first came up. Almost 2 years ago now. A different time. But that had long been gentrified into luxury flats. Sasha never mentioned that there might have been other depots, and I never asked. I need to do some digging, because if the place is still there, if the building is still standing, I might just have an idea where to... and these weird van drivers that seem to turn up everywhere. When they turned up at my office, I remember it was their shadows that I saw first. It was early evening, and the sun wasn't shining in through the window, but still their shadows fell across my desk, thick and dark as they loomed over me in the half-light. They wore featureless grey overalls, and even now I'm not sure I could easily describe what they looked like, other than to say they seemed solid, somehow heavier than the world around them. They stared down at me, dark eyes sizing me up, as I coughed gently and asked if I could help them. They traded a few words between them in another language, I think it was Russian, before turning back to look at me. At this point, I was pretty sure these guys must be mafia, probably trying to shake me down, so I waited until it was clear what they wanted from me. But the silence just stretched on and on and on, and eventually I cracked. I held out my hand. "Arthur Breekon, at your service. Who might you be?" There was another pause, shorter this time, before the slightly taller of the two, at least I think one was taller, turned to his companion and opened his mouth. "Breekon, at your service. Who might you be?" Instead of the Russian accent I had expected, he spoke in a broad, cartoonish Cockney that I assumed must have been a mocking impression of my own voice. I began to stand up to tell these jokers to get out of my office, but as I did, the shorter one turned to his companion and in a similar voice replied, "The name's Hope. What can I do for you?" I don't know why this shook me so much, but it stopped me right in my tracks. I just watched as they repeated these two phrases back and forth between themselves, introductions made over and over again. Finally they stopped and turned back to me. I had no idea what was going to happen or what I was meant to do, but there was something profoundly unnatural about these two figures, and I had no intention of pushing too far and finding out what it was. It was a sunny day in June, and the window was open to a bright field behind the building. I didn't notice the butterfly until it had landed on the one who kept calling himself Hope. With a slow, languid motion, he picked it up. He looked at it for a couple of seconds, then looked at me. Then he ate the butterfly, not slowly or particularly fast. He just placed it carefully in his mouth and began to chew. As his partner did this, the one who seemed to have taken my name held out his hand to me. "Keys," he said, this time the words still lightly accented with Russian. I gave them to him. I took the keys to the oldest of the vans and just handed them over. Anything to get them out of my office. I'm not a small man, you understand, and I'm not used to feeling intimidated. I got into plenty of scrapes when I was young, and there was a small part of me screaming to teach these disrespectful punks a lesson. But when this other Breekon took the key from me, what I felt beneath the skin of his hand convinced me I had made the right choice. Then they turned and left. I wish I could say that was the last I saw of them, that they stole one of my vans and drove away never to return. But they did return. And even worse, they started to make deliveries. They were innocuous at first, the right things delivered to the right people on time. Then it became the right things delivered to the wrong people. Then the wrong things being delivered. Then the very wrong things. Strange folk began coming around asking for Breekon and Hope, and when I told them who I was, they just shook their heads, and I knew who they were after. They often brought crates or boxes with them, and once, a sack full of hair. I never opened any of these or looked too closely when they came around. There was something in me that wanted to believe if I was smart and kept my head down, maybe I could somehow get through it. I couldn't accept that something like this could just turn up and casually destroy me without cause. If there is a reason that they've picked me, I've never found it out. I have asked them, but unsurprisingly got no answers. There must be other delivery companies, surely, and it's the deliveries they seem to focus on. They're out most of the day and night usually, allowing me some rest away from their horrid blank faces. But they always come back. When not on delivery, they stand in the break room facing the wall. Sometimes they laugh, suddenly and abruptly, as though they've both simultaneously thought of a hilarious joke. It sounds like the laugh track in an old sitcom and cuts off almost immediately. When I get fitful sleep in the small fold-out cot I keep in my office, I can sense them standing there, looking at me. I don't go home anymore. I'm afraid of what might happen if they followed me outside of a professional environment. My other drivers have been disappearing. For all that, they do seem to have friends, or at the very least people who come to see them regularly. Most I don't remember. The feature's difficult to put together from memory, but I know that more than once I've seen the pair of them talking to a figure at the other end of the depot. They always make sure these meetings are in shadow, and I can never get close enough to see exactly who they're talking to, but I think they're dressed like a circus ringmaster. And so it's been going for the last couple of years. I think I might even be paying them, though it's hard to tell. The account book, as well as the shipping logs and manifests, keep filling up with entries I don't remember, although it is definitely my handwriting. I am not sure how long this might continue for. Maybe years, maybe forever. Whatever fight was in me at the beginning is gone. Occasionally, when they first began to take over, I would start to march up to them, my mind whirring, filled with demands and threats and ultimatums. Then they'd look at me with those blank, impassive eyes, and I'd feel all my resolve simply melt away. Now it's just a memory, a daydream. I've forgotten the taste of determination. It won't last forever, though, because I think they've decided they're done with me. I came into work yesterday to find a box sat on my desk. The address and label had been completely scribbled over in black marker pen, and it was impossible to tell from what was left where it had originally been sent to. It didn't matter, though, because on top of it, written in my handwriting with a vicious precision I've always lacked, were the words, "Return to sender." They'd put it there for me, They'd never delivered to me before. The package was still, but every part of me recoiled from it. I slowly walked forward and touched it, but I did not pull away the tape. The day was warm, but the box was ice cold, and the cardboard was spongy and strangely yielding. It didn't move when I pressed it with my hand, but there was a sound like shifting sand. I don't know what was inside. I don't know what is inside. It won't be right. It's not my package. I didn't send it. I tried to look it up in the logs. I found it easily enough. Everything seemed to be in order except the item description. That line simply read, "Goodbye." God knows how long I spent staring at it. Nothing about that box was right. The card fitted together at slightly off angles and the corners were damp like it had been left out in the rain. The table seemed to bend slightly under its weight, yet when I tried to move it, it seemed so light I doubted for a second it could have anything inside. Even then, I never dared to fully lift it up or pull it towards me. There's a gravity there, though, and I don't know how much longer I can resist its pull. It has been freeing talking to you, but not enough to free me from my fate. I am not the sender, but I am going to open that package. I know I leave Breekon and Hope deliveries in safe hands. Safe hands where the skin feels wrong. I was right about the Newcastle depot. It's still here, and it seems like it's been deserted for a long time. There's a pile of mail at the door almost 2 feet high, and today it was topped with a crisp brown envelope addressed to me containing this statement. A gift from Elias, no doubt. He could have sent this to me any time, filled me in on Breekon and Hope, but no. I had to find it myself, just in time for him to show me he knew all about it. Cocky prick. Still, there's not actually as much information here as I'd hoped, either here or in the statement. It shows that Breekon and Hope didn't own the company, I guess, that those aren't their real names. It does seem to confirm that they have some connection to the circus, judging by clandestine meetings with someone apparently dressed as a ringmaster, as if it's not obvious if you're dressed as a ringmaster, and their apparent Russian origins. I say origins, perhaps it's just the last link in a very long chain. If the circus is connected as closely to the stranger and the unknowing as I believe, I should probably keep an eye out for delivery vans. The other useful thing I found here was one of the old logbooks. It lists deliveries quite a ways past the point where the company technically ceased to exist, right up to 2013. I need to go through it in more detail, but probably not here. This place is done with its story. It's just empty. I don't like it. There are dozens of deliveries recorded here by Breekon and Hope. What were they delivering? What is the significance of this place?
Nothing, except what people give it. But they give it a lot. Make it a place of power for us. Enough to keep certain items here. The couriers brought them, and took them and moved them where they needed to be.
Excuse us. Are you Jonathan Sims?
Yeah,
Oh, shit! Miss Orsinov wants to see you. She says she changed her mind. Oh, God.
Oh, don't worry, it's not for you. You won't even need a coffin. We're going to use every piece of you. Now, could you two please move that thing somewhere far, far away?
Not really. Needs to be near us.
Well, just move yourselves away and take it with you.
Gotcha. Right you are. Hello, Daisy. You alright?
Daisy!
No.
I'm sorry, don't follow you.
Leave. No.
Oh, come on, Daisy. Don't be like that. It's me. Basira.
No, you're not. Because nothing is anything. Leave.
And if I don't, what will you do?
I'll kill you.
Will you now? Ooh, pretty scary. If you can, that is. You don't even know what a gun is.
I don't care.
You killed him. Do you even know what you've done? You stupid animal. Kill you? No. Almost a shame you don't know your own coffin. But you will. Oh, you will.
The rain is still there, though it is empty. The long and desolate road slick with the downpour, a police car's lights flashing over the unmoving van. The doors are open and the two familiar statues stand either side of the well-worn wooden box.
Don't say a word.
John, don't turn on the light. Go get Melanie, quickly.
It's all right, Basira. I know he's here.
So what are you doing?
I imagine he's here to deliver something. Thought it might need signing for.
That's right. Just wanted to drop off a package.
Right. Look, what the hell is this? Did you bring him here?
No.
Is he here for revenge?
I don't know. Ask him.
Like he's going to answer me.
Fine. Are you here for revenge?
Yeah, just like when I fed the copper to the pit.
Easy, Basira. What pit?
In here. Realise that I'm not tied to it anymore. Not on my own. Thought you could have it. Pay your respects, like.
Daisy's in there.
That's its name. Then sure, it's in there. Whatever's left. Find out if you like.
Would you please drop that ridiculous voice?
Apologies. It's preferred like so.
Christ, that's worse. What is your real voice?
Nicholas said you were funny. Didn't believe it.
What do you want? Why are you here?
Why are you here?
Dunno. It's not right on my own. Not right. No point in doing it on my own. Don't know what happens now. Thought I might kill you. Missed my chance. Thought I might just deliver something. So here's a coffin. In case you want to join your friend.
Get out.
Sarah.
Get out.
Make me.
Stop.
What are you doing?
John, what are you doing?
What are you... Stop it. Stop it. No. Enough. Stop looking at me.
John?
It's fine. Get me a pen. Please. Statement of the surviving half of the being calling itself Breekon and Hope regarding its existence. Statement extracted from subject 3rd March 2018. Audio recording by Jonathan Sims, the archivist. Statement begins. We started in a plague. Not like the nasty crawlers, but like bringing any other doom. We had a cart of corpses, faces twisted, screaming, leaking pus. knock on doors and cry roughly to bring their dead to us. I tended the shrunken, mangy mule, and he took the remains on shoulder, slinging them onto the stinking pile. I remember it clear, the fear on their faces as we rolled towards their hovels. Mud-caked peasant or bloated lord, every one of them saw us coming and trembled. It wasn't the plague they feared, it wasn't the death that waited in our wagon. It was us. Two strangers rolling towards them, unstoppable and uncertain, wearing faces they would only half remember, bringing a fate they would beg their God to forget. They could not hate us any more than they might have hated the rock that falls on them from a crumbling cliff. They did not know us, but they knew what we might do to them, what we might bring them. And we did. Villages that might have no bodies for us when we arrived would pile high our cart before we left. We did not kill them, did not lift a finger. We were the bringers of their awful fate, not its executors. They knew this and feared us in kind, and we drank it down, the taste of it sweeter than the food that now rotted on our plates or the drink that curdled in our cups. And we both tasted it together. When we left our destination, the mule whining at the new weight behind it, he would reach behind us and find a face, sagging, sloughing off its skull, and would pull it to him. He'd place it over the one he wore already, and he would laugh and laugh and laugh. Sometimes it fell off, sometimes it stayed for weeks. I kept the face we chose, but I loved him for our levity. And the corpses piled ever higher. We served aboard the Robert Small, bodies of the time crammed into uniform as sloppily as any would expect. Enlistment wasn't needed, nor was drafting. We were on the list for any crew that deserved us, and we were fitting deckhands for the Robert Small as it made its slow and mournful passage to Australia. The quartermaster was too precise, though, and in counting out the rations saw us for what we were. I ate the quartermaster's pen. He ate the quartermaster's tongue. And that was that. The journey was magnificent. No waiting, no searching for a delivery. Every moment moved us towards the completion of the task and the culmination of our charge's terror. Poor wretches who emerged from Millbank with tales of Australia and its cruelties on their lips, bundled into the cramped and creaking ship that would drag them away from everything they loved, and towards everything they feared. That was the first time we saw what would become this place, the Eye's pedestal. But we were drunk on the dawning horror of transportation and took no heed of it. A young man named Jack tried to leap overboard. When he caught the lad, there was such begging and pleading as you've never heard, just to let them drown, allow the sea to take its due. But he just laughed, and Jack died on dry land as they had always been meant to. We were conductors on a train. Prim suits and scowls, a relentless beast of steam and iron that never seemed to get you exactly where you wanted to be unless there was something dreadful waiting for you. We punched tickets, ignored questions, and threw off those that looked like they were having too fine a time of it. We didn't like this job. Too many sat aboard dreaming sweetly of progress and the future, too few alive to the truth of dirt and struggle in front of them. We woke those we could, but too many stepped off with a smile. We had some luggage once, a thrumming silk-wrapped thing of the Spider, hiding away in an old steamer trunk. We stepped heavy through the dining car and found an old woman near the caboose. "Something strange in the luggage car," he said, and I finished as was our way. "You should come and see it." She stood and walked with us readily enough, though tears flowed silent down her cheeks and patterned onto the faded carpet. The Spider's always an easy job, no fuss, no complications, everything planned and prepared. It knows too much to truly be a stranger, but hides its knowing well enough to endure. We knew she wouldn't scream as she was hollowed out and drunk, but still he thought best to cover the sounds with a laugh. He was always our humour. I remember our first automobile, black and reliable, just about presentable for the London auction houses we served. He squeezed its first owner until they stopped and dumped them in a river. And I stayed with the second until they didn't know who they were, any more than they knew what they were. And then we had a car. It was noisy and it juddered, but the name on the wooden siding was respectable, and now it was ours and good enough for Sotheby's. We moved a lot of things in those years, some of them even harmless. My favourite was the old knife, rusted from the trenches and lied about by a barking auctioneer. We delivered it to a leering banker who knew the second they saw us what they'd done. Sweat dripped from under their bowler hat as they took the knife from its dented metal case and screamed. They lunged at me, stabbing me over and through, then moved on to him. But he just laughed as the blade went in and out and no blood flowed from the holes they cut. And when the banker had screamed all the curses they had learned from German gas attacks, the knife turned back again and cut them, piece by piece. We delivered it back to Christie's, and that was the end of the auction jobs. Then were the good times, the circus times. We always take what jobs are before us, deliver whatever will bring that fear and misery, but there is no joy in carrying meat, in shifting, writhing, spiral things. But with the circus we were among our own kind at last. They all had names, true enough, but none would dare pretend that names were real. Faces changed more often than clothes, and nobody truly knew who anybody was, save for their function within the show. We carried and lifted and helped the circus move towards its next destination, the next doomed town. Sometimes we joined the show, lifting weights and things that looked like animals. Sometimes we lifted members of the audience. Sometimes we even put them down again. Even in our stillness, people were afraid. The winter in Russia was cold, and in the icy air the absence of our breath was clear for all to see. I could taste their discomfort, but none ever mentioned it. We didn't like the puppet when Orsanov began to carve it. It seemed wrong to us to try and bring one like us about, to create or remake it in such a solid, static shape. We were wrong, of course, and when Orsanov carved into the thing that had once called itself Grimaldi, and fed the pieces they didn't need to the shuddering organist, even we found ourselves impressed. And when the faceless puppet peeled its creator and moved itself with their tendon strings, he looked at me, and laughed, and laughed. We followed her a while, but she was unpredictable, while we are things of point and purpose. When she lost the ancient skin, we went our separate ways and found ourselves a lorry, long and dirty grey. We drove the motorways and country roads and took great crates of nothing to and fro, driving towards a different sort of terror. It wasn't our cargo that brought fear then. We brought fear to our cargo. Smiling, waiting, patient by the road, with cardboard signs of gentle hopes. In they went to the back, that silent, heavy place, with boxes that seemed too big or too warm. They usually screamed as we drove and drove, fear thick in the air, and sometimes they died. Some tried to leap from the back into the road, and one even made it through. Most stayed, getting weaker and weaker, their cries fading away as hunger and thirst and despair took their final hold. But we were not content. He didn't laugh like he used to, driving aimless, waiting for the call, sat badly with us, who were meant to know our destination. We were meant to have a cargo and an address. So it was we found a man named Breekon, and we took everything they were until there was nothing left but the sweet taste of a broken soul's disquiet and confusion. We took the van and started to deliver once again. But we were reckless, desperate for the surety we had not felt since leaving the circus. And so we took the casket, a hungry thing of the earth,
a crushing, choking tomb that will not let you die because it is too much what it is for death to find you there, within its mocking shape, buried alive. It was one like us that found it, a thing of shifting names and déjà vu, a fool that believed because it found the coffin in chains, it would be an easy thing to control, to bargain with. But there was no remorse when the test finally failed and it fed on the thing that considered itself the master. No face to change in the cold dark earth, no eye to fool where it is now. But there was no mention of us in the deal, no thought to what might happen should a victim pass the test. And what happened was, we were stuck with it. It was still our cargo, nowhere to take it, no address or destination, so back in the van it went. A long time we've carried it, keeping it as close as it wants, not listening to it sing in the rain. Even when the mannequin that now called itself Orsinov came back to us, told us we could help the world unknow and fear again the coming of strangers, still we had to drag it with us. An unclaimed package. But I suppose it was worth it in the end, when that hunter killed him, when she took her violence of mindless instinct and unleashed it on us. It was there. It was waiting. I fed her to it. She took him from me, made us a me, and she doesn't get to die for that. She gets to live, trapped and helpless and entombed forever. No prey, no hunt, no movement. We failed, but I have at least that comfort. I am without him now. I am. I can feel myself fading, weak, no reason to move, nothing to deliver. But I am no longer tied to the casket, so you can have it. You can stare at it, knowing how your feral friend suffers, knowing how powerless you are to help. And when you can't bear it any longer, knowing that you can climb in and join her. I have never known hate before. I have never known loss. But now they are with me always, and I desire nothing but to share them with you. Statement ends.
Here.
Thank you.
Was it worth it?
I don't know. Maybe.
Did you at least learn anything?
Daisy's alive. In there.
Right.
Viscera, we can't...
Yeah, I can read.
Right.
So why give it to us?
I don't know. To taunt us, to lure us in as well. I saw that thing's mind. It's lost on its own. No partner, no purpose. I honestly think it just wanted to do another delivery.
And there's no chance more of the circus survived the explosion?
I don't think so. At least, Breekon didn't think so.
What about the delivery guy? Breekon. And the coffin?
Was that its name? To be honest with you, I thought it was dead.
You thought wrong.
True enough. And as soon as I learned it was here, I moved to intervene. But, well, it turns out I wasn't really needed.
Excuse me, Doctor. Just cleaning up.
Oh, I'm not a doctor.
Whatever. I got work to do.
Hang on, are you... Wait, which one are you? Hope or...
Breekon. Hope's dead. Do I know you?
Hope's dead? Bit on the nose, isn't it?
Glad losing half my existence has given you a funny little metaphor.
Oh, well, I mean, that's not actually a metaphor per se, so...
Piss off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I supposed to be sympathising? After everything you two did to people?
Guess not. Who you waiting for? Maybe I can rip them away from you. See how you like it.
You're welcome to try.
Wait. No, I do know you. We gave you a delivery, didn't we? Years back. You're one of Magnus's lot, right?
I was. Yes.
Wait. So does that mean in there, the archivist?
That's right.
I'll wait with you.
I thought you had work to do.
Just spreading the smell around. Doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Right.
Hello again, Breekon.
Yeah.
He hasn't been bothering you, has he, Martin?
Well...
Nah. Just been chatting.
Naturally. So you've come to me?
Didn't mean to.
No, but you have. Is there something you want? Isn't there?
Yeah.
Say it.
Kill me.
Wait, what?
The way I figure, you're the one who made all this. So if anyone can end it, you can. Can you do it?
Yes. I can.
But like, why would you want him to? Isn't this whole thing like a dream come true for all of you monsters?
You think I dream of mopping floors? No. I'm a delivery man. We arrive somewhere, deliver terror and death, then leave, never to be seen again. Not much call for that now, everyone's in their little kingdoms. Maybe if we were complete, we could have done something. But as is, no. Can't say I want this to be my forever.
I see.
Besides, it hurts all the time. The eye won't ever stop watching, and it isn't great for an anonymous thing like us, like me.
Very well. I warn you, though, it will hurt.
Only until it doesn't, though, right?
Right.
Good luck.
Whatever.
Ceaseless watcher, gaze upon this thing, this lost and broken splinter of fear. Take what is left of it as your own, and leave no trace of it behind. It is yours.
Right.
I suppose we should find Dr. Doe. Finish our tour.
Do we have to?
Probably not.
I don't really know how to feel about that.
About Breekon?
Yeah.
Me neither. I didn't enjoy it, but I don't know. Almost felt like doing a favor for an old friend.
An old friend who hated us.
I guess. Maybe we don't have to feel any way at all. Come on. This place is starting to get to me.